So, what would you say if I told you that we're living in the days of Bible prophecy being fulfilled? Now, this is not something I could have said with certainty even 5 years ago, but today, there's no doubt in my mind that we are seeing at least two Bible prophecies unraveling in front of our very eyes. Welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm Olivier Melnick. Shalom in Messiah. We want to educate you, challenge you, and mobilize you to fight antisemitism, grow in your faith, and reach Jewish people with the good news of Yeshua the Messiah. Now, let me be clear. The entire Bible is the truth, and every single prophet listed in it contributed to the grand narrative given to mankind in general and hinging around Israel and the Jewish people in particular. Now, in early 2025, the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, published the results of a survey in which they announced that 46% of all adults on the planet harbored some sort of anti-Jewish sentiment. That is almost half of all adults. And that number keeps growing. Now, how does that connect with Bible prophecy? Or does it? Well, Zechariah 12 speaks of Israel's future in no uncertain terms. In a way, it describes not the calm before the storm, but the storm before the calm. 12:1 and following, thus declares Yahweh, who stretches out the heavens, lays the foundation of the earth, and forms the spirit of man within him. Behold, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup that causes reeling to all the peoples all around. Now the one in siege against Jerusalem will also be against Judah, but it will be in that day that I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who eat it up will be severely injured, and all the nations of the earth will be gathered against it. That is Zechariah 12:1-3. Friends, it certainly looks like God promises that the whole world will go against Israel and the Jews. And we're at the halfway point. A lot sooner than I thought, to be honest with you. The reassuring thought is that just a few verses later, God also promises to destroy all of Israel's enemies. In verse 9, and I quote, "And it will be in the last day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem." Close quote. That's clear. Well, eventually, and that will take place at the end of the 7-year Great Tribulation, also known as the time of Jacob's trouble, all Israel will be saved, as predicted in Romans 11:26. Now, in Zechariah 12:10, we read about that promise. And I quote, "And I will pour out on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication, so that they will look on me whom they have pierced, and they will mourn for him as one mourns for an only son, and they will weep bitterly over him like the bitter weeping over a firstborn." What a powerful verse. My people will finally recognize Yeshua for who he is and who he always has been. And they will corporately proclaim from their hearts, "Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai," blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. This is the event that will usher in the second coming of Yeshua, the Messiah, returning with the raptured believers at the end of the tribulation. When that happens, that's the truth. Satan is out of a job and he hates where he's going to spend his retirement. So he's been trying to postpone that time, or better yet, cancel the second coming altogether and prove God wrong if he could. By doing that, he would achieve his ultimate goal of altering God's plan and making God into a liar or a covenant breaker, both actually. So Satan came up with a new idea. Turn the Jewish people against Yeshua, the Jewish Messiah, and turn the Christians against the Jews, so that Israel would never call on the one whom they have pierced. Yeshua would not return, and Satan wins. And just like that, anti-Semitism was invented. A spiritual battle. That's what it is. But God will never be caught by surprise, and any attempt at eradicating Israel is bound to failure, as Jeremiah tells us in chapter 31, 35 through 37. And I quote, "Thus says Yahweh, who gives the sun for light by day and the statutes for the moon and the stars for light by night, who stirs up the sea so that its waves roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If these statutes are removed from before me, declares Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also will cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus says Yahweh, if the heavens above can be measured, and the foundation of the earth searched out below, then I will also reject all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, declares Yahweh." Close quote. No chance of Israel ever disappearing based on that passage. I particularly love the way God finishes verse 37 by reaffirming that regardless of Israel's multiple cases of blatant disobedience based on his unchanging character and against all odds, humanly speaking, Israel still stands because it is based on God's character and not Israel's performance. Thank God for that. God promised to preserve Israel, and it never promised that it would be a smooth sailing. In fact, the history of the Jewish people is punctuated by acts of anti-Semitism, the Crusades, the Inquisition, the pogroms, the ghettos, the Holocaust, to only name a few of the big ones throughout Jewish history. It could even be argued that God allowed for the Holocaust to take place so that the Jewish people would start going back to the homeland of Eretz Israel. He did not create the Holocaust because this is not in his nature, but he could easily allow for it to happen to incentivize Jews to return home. That's very possible. That leads us to the second prophecy being fulfilled in front of our eyes, and that one, I believe, comes from Ezekiel 36, 24 through 28. And I quote, "And I will take you from the nations, gather you from all the lands, and bring you into your own land. Then I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your uncleanness and from all your idols. Moreover, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you will be careful to do my judgments. And you will inhabit the land that I gave to your fathers, so you will be my people, and I will be your God." Wow, this is right before the other prophecy of the Valley of Dry Bones that's coming in the future. But here is a promise from God to return the Jews to the land of Israel from the worldwide dispersion that started in AD 70. For this, they need an official home, and that happened on May 14, 1948, when Israel became a modern nation. Jews have always lived in that land since Abraham. It might have been light at times, but there's always been a Jewish presence in the land, even during the Babylonian captivity. In the late 1880s, Jews started to go back to Eretz Israel to escape persecution, the pogroms, and later the Holocaust for those who were fortunate enough to escape in time. As you know, anti-Semitism is through the roof, with no sign of tapering down, especially since October 7, 2023. The only safe place for Jews today is, without a doubt, Israel. In the meantime, we're still all over the world. Only 15 million of us, but spread out all over. Is God using the oldest hatred one more time to do his final regathering of the Jews? Very possibly, yes. Zechariah predicted that the world would turn on Israel, and it is, as we speak. Ezekiel predicted that the Jews would return to Israel in unbelief, and they are, as we speak. Jeremiah predicted that God would never allow for Israel to be destroyed, and she won't be, by God's grace. We are truly living in prophetic times, times that are exciting and faith-building for those who belong to God's family, and times that are very scary for those who do not know God personally. So again, welcome to our YouTube channel, where we want to educate you, challenge you, and mobilize you to fight anti-Semitism, grow in your faith, and reach Jewish people with the good news of Messiah Yeshua. Be blessed.